Psalm 104. Actually, I want to give you the homework. If there is time after this lesson, we can read the psalm together. Otherwise, you are on your own. This psalm is known as the Psalm of Creation. Actually, it's one of the important resources, the biblical resource, which could help us to make a very, very beautiful agrarian theology. Very important text. Each and every verse is important. We can use it. So, verse 14, He causes the grass to grow for the cattle and herb for the service of man, that he may bring forth food out of the earth. God designed cattle to eat grass as a primary feed source. God makes grass grow. Man does not make grass. Cattle are food for us out of the earth. Therefore, the quality and health value of the meat is dependent upon the fertility of the soil. God invented grass primarily for animal feed, not for lawns. Grass is a green feed that is harvested by four-legged combines. Does not require diesel fuel to produce it. So what I'm telling you is grass is very important, and grow grass and feed the animals. In your house, if you have a green lawn, what is the use? You have a cow there, and you get the organic milk, and there is a calf there, and they are kind of pets. They are family members. That is how our ancestors lived. There were cows, there were sheep, there were dogs, cats. It was a communion, it was a kinship based on Genesis chapter 2, 19, where God is telling and bringing all the animals in front of the first humans and asked first humans, please, you name them. In other words, enter into communion with them. Okay, they become your family, known as the kinship. So animal husbandry is an extended family. Yes, extended human family. Yes. We have come to another aspect of animal husbandry where we can treat animals as teachers. They can teach us. We can learn from them. It is not only we are going to eat them, but as long as they live in our farm, they can teach us too. And I have few chickens in my farm. They teach me every day. They teach me every day. And I got 2 cows in my farm. And I learn from them the patience, the sacrifice. They give milk to others. Their own calf, they get only 20%, but the humans get 80% of the milk. About sacrifice and sharing. A lot of things we can learn from animals. That's why animal husbandry is not only for eating purposes, learning from them, because they were before us. In St. Francis of Assisi word, brother, buffalo, sister cow, brother goat, sister lamb. See, all our brothers and sisters. They can teach us because they are older brothers and sisters. We are the little ones. There are no little ones after us. We didn't allow them to be born, isn't it? But these are our older brothers and sisters. See, Job is talking about some lessons that we could be learning from the animals. But ask now the beast, and they shall teach you, and the fowls of the air, and they shall tell you, or speak to the earth, and it shall teach you, and the fishes of the sea shall declare unto you. Pope Benedict XVI, I think in 2009, he wrote that earth speaks to us. We need to listen. Very profound words from Pope Benedict XVI. Earth speaks to us. We need to listen. We need to spend time observing our animals or poultry and see what they prefer and what they don't like. It is important to use an animal or bird's natural instinct to our advantage in handling them and in raising them. It can save us a lot of time and effort. Tells us to ask. We need to take the initiative and observe with the goal of learning from the animals, poultry, ground, or fish on your farm. Too often we do things in farming because others are doing it that way, or because it has always been done that way. It may not be the best way or the best for our farm or our ground. There is widespread agreement among scientists about the impact of climate change on agriculture. 2001, the United Nations Intergovernmental Panel on Climate Change, known as IPCC, pointed out rise in temperatures of 1.4 to 6 degrees Celsius over the next century, higher than earlier predictions. A rise of this kind would result, believes the panel, in droughts, floods, famine, severe water stress, decreased agricultural production in many tropical and subtropical countries, and higher worldwide food prices as supplies fail to keep up with the demands of an increasing population. Even a small increase in temperature could mean a decrease in agricultural production in many developing countries. Prophet Isaiah portrays a clumsy picture of the agricultural methods practiced during his time. That is Isaiah chapter 5. We already read it. So, for people who are already short of food, the implications are dire. It will be the most vulnerable farmers who bear the brunt of global warming. For subsistent farmers, and especially for people who now face a shortage of food, lower yields caused by climate change could result in reduced income, malnutrition, and famine. Global warming is already leading to lower rainfall in some countries and to changes in the crops that farmers grow. Agriculture is itself a source of greenhouse gases that are causing climate change. Carbon dioxide from land use change, including deforestation, from methane comes from the ruminant digestion and rice paddies, and nitrous oxide from fertilizers use. According to United Nations report, livestock which is raised for non-vegetarian consumption alone contributes 20% of the greenhouse gases. That is high, especially methane. That is the gas emitted from the waste of animals. No meat, no heat was the slogan circulated around the world to raise awareness to return to vegetarian lifestyle. In this regard, it would be appropriate to reiterate the biblical text in favor of vegetarian lifestyle. That is Genesis chapter 1:29 recommends only the agricultural produce to humans, nuts, vegetables, fruits, etc., etc. Then God said, I give you every seed-bearing plant on the face of the whole earth, and every tree that has fruit with seed in it. They will be yours for food. There is a lot more potential for food production than what we now realize. There are more than 500,000 species of plants in the natural world, out of which we have domesticated less than 1,000 species. According to verse 29, that is Genesis chapter 1, there are a lot of plants and trees producing food than what we now are using. We need more George Washington carvers to discover how these plants and trees can be used for food. Are there plants that we have overlooked for animal feed? Are there ways we can utilize weeds that grow in abundance for a good use of food? Are all plants that we call weeds part of the curse? Or with some of them is God using their abundance to get our attention, to use them for our food source? There are also medical uses of plants for people and animals. If we domesticate more plants for human consumption, faster we can come out of meat eating habits. I hope you understood that. There are at least 1 million species of plants in the natural world, out of which we are eating only less than 1,000 species, kale, vegetables, etc., etc. I'm talking about 1 million, that means 10 lakhs plants are there, but only 1,000 we are eating. So I think people like Jesuits and Salesians, you should be able to put online and go and try some new leaves, find some new food sources, probably domesticate new plants and bring them to the food web. What we are eating was invented 10,000 years ago. They were domesticated. And we did not contribute anything to the food web. I think it is a big failure on the part of modern generations. We need to invent the new forms of food and bring it to the food web. Maybe another 1,000 species of plants we need to domesticate and increase our food web. In that way we can come out of non-vegetarian lifestyle. Otherwise we are going to kill animals, slaughter. So I think there are a lot of challenges ahead of you. And you need to, Jesuits, you are good in academics and education, biology, botany, etc., etc. I think you can use your resources to this kind of service to invent new food source, invent plant-based food, new inventions. I think that is the greatest contribution towards agrarian theology, I guess. Ecclesiastes chapter 3 puts it so beautifully. You see, if you love animals, they will love you. Your future is great. Both of us can find, animals and us can find a positive and benign future. If you begin to abuse animals, very soon you will be abused too. If you kill an animal, very soon you are going to kill other humans. If you abuse a cat or a house dog, when you grow up, you are going to abuse human people. If you kill those animals as a kid, you are going to kill humans later on. That is what many killers, murderers have confessed. Many murderers have confessed that while they were small little kids, they were abusing and killing their own house cats and house dogs. Ecclesiastes chapter 3. I also said to myself, as for humans, God tests them so that they may see that they are like the animals. Surely the fate of human beings is like that of the animals. The same fate awaits them both. As one dies, so dies the other. All have the same breath. Humans have no advantage over animals. Everything is meaningless. All go to the same place. All come from dust, and to dust all return. Who knows if the human spirit rises upward, and if the spirit of the animal goes down into the earth? Who knows? Wisdom from book of Ecclesiastes, chapter 3. A statement from the Dicastery for Promoting Integral Human Development. First time in the history of the church, church has spoken. Adopting a more plant-based diet to reduce meat consumption. First time in the history of the church. In 2020, month of June, these words were spoken from the Pontifical Commission for Peace and Justice, from Dicastery for Promoting Integral Human Development. This statement was issued to celebrate the Laudato Si anniversary year 2020-21. So this statement comes from them. Adopting a more plant-based diet to reduce meat consumption. First time. 2008, no meat, no heat. At last, church is also admitting that 20% of the greenhouse gases are produced because of our non-vegetarian habits. Not only we are ruining our health, we are destroying the very health of our environment and our planet as well. So that is the reason why this statement is so important. So important. At last we have come to the finishing line of our agrarian theology deliberations. So far we have been discussing a lot of aspects of our agrarian theology deliberations. Here, one note I forgot, I should have mentioned earlier, but this is the most important thing. Aram. You see, polyculture, permaculture, aquaculture, genetically modified crops, animal husbandry, food gathering, etc., all these aspects, they will have a positive impact if they are built on Aram, righteousness. That is your foundation, on your foundation. If your foundation is ethical, then outer world will reflect the same. If your foundation is corrupt, evil, it's going to reflect in the outer world, in agrarian theology. So in other words, human ecology produces the highest crop, Aram. In Manimekalai Kappiyam, Manimekalai Kappiyam, Seethalai Sathanar so beautifully puts it. So good. Akshaya Patra in the hands of Manimekalai. And she went and performed Aram. She fed poor, the deaf and the dumb and the lame, etc., etc. So Akshaya Patra means in this sense, your human ecology, your consciousness, your ethical behavior, in other words, values and morals, and human resources, what you have inside of you. You see, every ecosystem contains resources, all right? They contain iron, fossil fuel, gold, silver. Those are the earth resources. But humans also contain the resources. As we read in Colossians chapter 3, we have empathy, mercy, compassion, love, hope, sympathy, kindness, tenderness, justice, Aram. Aram also we have as a resource. So that is very important. We are also becoming an ecosystem now. Kurinji, Mullai, Marudam, Neidal, Palai, 5. Tolkapiyar. In Tolkapiyam, divided 5 ecosystems. But Jesus Christ, coming after Tolkapiyar, he identifies one more ecosystem called human, Manidam. Kurinji, Mullai, Marudam, Neidal, Palai, Manidam. 6th ecosystem. Because you are also made up of soil. All other ecosystems are made up of soil, and human is also made up of soil. So that makes you an ecosystem. You are worthy of that name. You are containing resources. The highest crop you produce is Aram, righteousness. Righteousness. So that is absolutely necessary in order to create anything positive, to put it at the service of humanity. Masanobu Fukuoka, I think it's a beautiful quote to end our lesson here. The greening of the desert means sowing seeds in people's hearts and creating a green paradise of peace on earth. That is Akshaya Patra, that is Aram. Sowing seeds in people's hearts and creating a green paradise of peace on earth. That is what Jesus puts it in Matthew 13. And Jesus teaching the disciples privately, the seed was not sown in the soil. It was sown in the human heart, in the human ecosystem, where it produced 60, 80, and 100%. It is known as human ecology. So today your homework is, go and type in the Google search, ask what is human ecology. Today Pope Benedict, even John Paul II and Pope Francis, they are looking into this concept of human ecology. They talk very often about human ecology. And if you don't understand, you are going to miss your future. So it's better you educate on human ecology. In other words, human ecosystem. So please read, that is your homework today. To conclude, every seminary we should turn into farminary. Seminary to farm, a place of farm, agriculture. So this is the thing what we have discussed. Where can we buy bread for these people? You give them something to eat. For I was hungry and you gave me something to eat. At that time Jesus went through the grain fields on the Sabbath. When he saw the crowds, he had compassion on them because they were harassed, helpless like sheep without a shepherd. Grow your own food, Genesis 2:15. 2014, United Nations International Year of Family Farming. Google it today and you find out the importance of family farming. Food and Agricultural Organization motto is Fiat Panis, let there be bread. So all these things we have discussed just to remind you as I conclude the lesson. Agriculture is a dynamic and challenging enterprise to be conducted in harmony with God's laws at the very heart of Earth's sustainability. Agriculture connects humans to the earth and its care and to the Creator as provider and sustainer of all things. It must also connect humans to each other as we share the resources for production and the fruits produced equitably now and intergenerationally for the future. It's our belief that Christians need to lead, not follow, in farming and production, and we can do that through humbly seeking to glorify God. Farming isn't monotonous, dull, manual labor fit only for the less capable people of society. Farming is challenging, fulfilling, satisfying work that honors God and serves others. Let us strive to be faithful in the work God has given us. If we are faithful, I believe we will be amazed at what the Lord can do through agriculture. Agriculture will still continue as the best and the only profession intended by God to humans as long as humanity keeps the three connections in working conditions, namely relationship with God, relationship with the neighbor, and the relationship with the creation. Thus, usher in the golden age of food security.